Wallis struggles with being described as an artist. But if his collection of carvings and paintings and drawings don't amount to art, what does?
There is no afterlife. We are part of the stars. We return to the ground. We will be part of the stars again. I believe there's longevity.
So is this a celebration or a reminder to people to
I
live
find
life?
skulls and skeletons fascinating. If you go into the catacombs in Paris or the ones near to Rome, it's just fascinating. Everything we are is contained in this little lump. Everything we are. You know, you can talk about your soul and your heart and your feelings. They're all chemical impulses, whatever. Everything we are is stored in this little piece of bone. And I love the imagery of it. I absolutely love it. This guy, brain skull guy, I'm not going to lie. It's easier carving something if you've got something to work off of. Now, you can make your own models. This one down here I made a plasticine model for. But quite available on the internet are medical skulls, but you can buy them, and I bought a medical skull that's down in my workshop purely because it had a rubber brain in it, and the brain you can take to pieces, and I find it fascinating. So this purely came about because I had a medical skull with a rubber brain in it, and I thought that's great, and it's not going to be my last brain. There was so much fun, and I can't remember what all these ridges are called. There's a name for them, isn't there? And I put my medical journal away for the day. But there's some real fun in just trying to replicate that, and this is just like, who doesn't? I've had people that can't look at it though. I've had people say, no, that's not my cup of tea at all. But for me, I could sit there all evening just tapping the brain.
A former police officer, he nearly died, aged 25, when his arm was badly cut in a fight with a suspect. He lost 4 pints of blood, and his brush with death changed his life.
Once I survived that, I just lived my life with this sense of invincibility that if I didn't die then, nothing can touch me. So every single incident I went to in the police, and it's why I got promoted twice quickly, I was incredibly successful in terms of thinking like a criminal. And I had the highest arrest rate for 3 years in a row in Margate. When I came to Maidstone, I had the highest arrest rate for the next year, and I got promoted on the back of all of this. But it just turned me into this person who never stopped. I never stopped. I was right at the front of all the violence. I was right at the front of, because I was never afraid.
Such an intense career left more than physical scars. He eventually left the force and then spent 2 years travelling around the world, particularly across South America and Asia.
This is the little book that I made when I was travelling, and this got flooded in a room in Nepal when I was in the mountains. All sorts of things happened.
Oh wow!
So basically,
So these are sketches that you did when you had time, you were bored, when you're waiting.
Yeah, well, it started off, and my drawing isn't that great, so
I disagree.
It started off a little bit childish, really, I would say, and this is a place in Chile actually, and there was I can't remember the name of the town, but this was like a 15-foot diameter well with all these, because the big bones that don't rot is full of femurs and skulls. And basically the church at the time had a big clear out of prostitutes and homeless children and orphans in the town one night. And about 100 years later, they excavated it and found where they'd all gone. And so they arranged these piles neatly. But I was really profoundly affected by things like that. It doesn't appear on this table. It appears in a couple of the drawings because they really leave a mark, things like this. I mean, like, so this book sort of just gradually progressed as I went through, and like I say, it got a little bit more detailed as my drawing skills improved. But yeah, to give you a good example of this table and the link to this is, so this is Cambodia, and that being Angkor Wat, obviously. But also the S21 sites. I think they're S21, I forget the details.
Well, the sort of Khmer Rouge related
Yeah, the Khmer
stuff.
Rouge, yeah, the Pol Pot, Salazar guy, getting rid of a third of his population, I think. 2 million people, wasn't it? It's horrible. But anyway, I walked into this primary school in, where would that have been? Phnom Penh, I think. And they still had the beds in this primary school. They still had the chalk writing on the boards, and they still had the beds where people had been taken in and tortured and chained, and the stains underneath the beds. So just this horrible, horrible massacre. And you walk in there, and it's so profound. You know, just that is probably, I've never been to any of sort of like the
Auschwitz or any of those kind of
those
places.
camps,
But it's a similar thing.
It's so profound. And then as part of their display, as you go out, they've got all the pictures of all the people that went in there, and we're talking children and whatever, that never left this place, but they photographed them all. And things like that left a real mark. So I'd draw and paint those. And this was just a particular image of it. And this one, 239, this young girl, there was just this look of acceptance of her fate on her face. So when I came back, having made my little book what it is, this then became immortalised on here. So you've got the pile of bones here that they've got laying all over the country just to remind the younger population that don't believe this ever happened in their country now. You've got a bit of Angkor Wat, and in the little background detail there, in the middle of that, is this young girl, because it's just so profound. So this table then evolved.
So this table is a kind of a history of your life in some ways.
Well, the outside edges, the inside is very much sort of a decoration purely for the sake of framing a poem for a psychiatrist. This this outside edge then became a reference to my little book from my
Travels around
travels.
the world.
Entirely self-taught as a woodcarver, his studio these days is in a cabin that he built at the bottom of his garden in Kent.
I'm not escaping from anybody or anything. There's something about being at the bottom of the garden. There's something about coming away from the world that is solitude and sanctuary and peace of mind. And that's what this is. This represents a little room that I like to come and hang out in. Hence it looks more like a living room than it does a workshop.
So why do you do it? Why do you carve?
Two things I think people should keep up from when they're younger, and I feel quite sorry for people if they don't. At school you do exercise, you do art. It's not everyone's cup of tea, I know, but if you have a creative element to your life, it's kind of fulfilling, because like you said upstairs, you can stand back from something and say, good, bad or ugly, I made that, I enjoyed making that. And exercise, it just keeps you sane. And the two for me go hand in hand. I don't think I could ever not ride my bicycle and exercise, and I don't think I could ever not carve. You do it because there's some pleasure and satisfaction in sitting there and just letting rip with your imagination, isn't there? And like, why do you guys go walking? You're in the fresh air, you feel good, you're exploring somewhere, you get that exercise. It's, yeah, I think that's why I do it, is it fills the gap in between now and death.
Ant Wallis has never shown his work publicly, never had an exhibition, never displayed his works in a gallery. That will surely change in the near future.
Art is completely undemocratic. It's not about a vote or other people's opinion until you become commercial. It's about the pure pleasure of making it. That need to create all the time is something I've never lost ever since I was a kid. I've always had to draw something or carve something or make something out of paper mache. And I think that's why I think art's totally undemocratic, is, for me, I really fall into that category of I genuinely don't care what other people think. Until they express an opinion, I care deeply. And I think that's like most artists, isn't it? Is unless you're commercial and then you make things that really just going to please other people, and I'm not sure I do. Lord Byron wrote a poem. Can I quote a poem out? You hate poetry.
Go on.
Start not, nor deem my spirit fled. In me behold the only skull, from which unlike a living head, whatever flows is never dull. And if I was going to quote my life, that would be it. It's like, it's all in there. and it's in there once.